Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Content is offered for information purposes only. Unless stated otherwise, any and all individuals participating in the video are third parties that include both professional investors and individual investors who may not be licensed or certified by any institute or regulatory body. Unless stated otherwise, the views or opinions expressed may not reflect those of Seeking Alpha as a whole. The accuracy and completeness of content shared cannot be guaranteed. Seeking Alpha does not take account of your objectives or financial situation and does not offer any personalized investment advice. Seeking Alpha is not a licensed securities dealer, broker, U.S. investment advisor, or investment bank. Hey, welcome back to ETF Spotlight. I'm Daniel Snyder. Now, for this week's episode, we're going to dive into 3 notable ETFs from the last 30 days. That is the month of September. ETFs that are ranking high based off of the Seeking Alpha quant system. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I'm going to show us the ETF screener we have here within Seeking Alpha Premium and Pro. I want to show you a couple of the filters that I added. The first thing I did was went to top US equity ETFs, and I'm going to click on edit filters here. So under advanced filters, I added some across the board. And then here I can dial them in deeper. So I wanted to make sure our assets under management were at least $250 million. I wanted to ensure that the expense ratio was under 50 basis points. And one other thing is I wanted to make sure the year-to-date performance was at least 13% because the S&P 500 right now is about 13.5% as of this morning. So with those in place, we have the top 3 ranking ETFs here based off of their 1-month price performance. I filtered by this column right here. So you'll see GDE, that is the Wisdom Tree Efficient Gold Plus Equity Strategy Fund. We have KOMP, which is the Spider Kensho New Economies Composites. And lastly, VFMO, which is the Vanguard US Momentum Factor ETF here. So I went ahead and opened these up. Let's dive into the GDE. So what is it? So as I mentioned, this is a fund that is $394 million of assets under management. The expense ratio is 20 basis points. If we're looking at the ETF grades here, we got a momentum grade of A+, expenses coming in at A-, dividends at C, and the risk A-, and liquidity at B-. So what is this fund? This fund, in essence, is your technology fund, but it has the gold kicker. So they use gold derivatives, which you'll see here, which is the top #1 holding of the fund, which gives you that kicker, as I mentioned, for a little bit of extra price performance from the gold angle. But everything else is the standard names that you're looking at. It's NVIDIA, it's Apple, it's Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, Broadcom, Tesla, and Berkshire Hathaway here. That's the top 10 holdings right there, which make up about 45% of the holdings of this specific ETF, even though there are 496 total holdings within this Wisdom Tree Gold Plus equity strategy. Jumping over to the Spider ETF, KOMP, let's go ahead and dive in. So $2.5 billion of assets under management. We're looking at another expense ratio of only 20 basis points here. Let's dive into these ETF grades. Momentum is an A, expenses is an A-, dividends is a D, risk D+, and liquidity is an A- here. Scrolling down, what is this fund as always? Well, this is a fund that thinks about robotics. It thinks about AI. It thinks about the future of things and where we're going from here. So what you'll notice is there's 450 plus holdings within this ETF. Things like EBIT Systems, Parsons Corp, Ambarella, 3D Systems, Baidu, for example, robotic cars. Think about all of that. So it's across multiple different sectors and market caps. But if you're looking for something that gives you that exposure to these companies that are working on the future, this might be a good option for you to look deeper into. And lastly, in third place, Vanguard's US Momentum Factor Grade ETF. So momentum grade that we use within the Seeking Alpha quant system, the Vanguard group has the exact same thing. They're using a systematic approach based off their quantitative system within this strategy to pick the names that go into this ETF. So this currently has $1.1 billion of assets under management, 13 basis points for the expense ratio. And that's the nice thing we like about Vanguard, right, is they like to keep that expense ratio low. Scrolling down, we can start to see some of the holdings here at the bottom. Things like Palantir, Spotify, Netflix, Gilead Sciences, AT&T, and Walmart. They're focusing on that near-term momentum because it is one of those factor grades that matters so much when it comes to investing. Now, this one does have a dividend yield as well, 87 basis points if you're looking for a little bit of income. But most of these don't really seem like they are a heavy dividend play. So keep that in mind when it comes to these ETFs. And as I mentioned, if you haven't already, check out the ETF screener over on Seeking Alpha. It's very customizable. You can dive into all sorts of filters here. Whether you do want to care about dividends, we have tons of dividend metrics you can rate by. Looking at risk, we can look at, what's the short interest. If you want to focus surely on holdings and how much turnover there is, if that's something that you're looking for within active ETFs, you can find all of that data here on Seeking Alpha. So let's go ahead and wrap it up there. That's this week's episode of ETF Spotlight. I'm Daniel Snyder once again. I hope to see you in the next episode. Take care.